So, like, what can't they do? I didn't think it was, like, they only did practical things, like kill people, save people, and clean doilies. Like, I didn't think it was like that yet.
Your main three. Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to BYOB, the Bring Your Own Book podcast. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Nikki.
And today we're talking about R.F. Kuang's historical fiction fantasy, Babel, an Arcane History. I am so excited to talk about this book, and of course, we had to have our favorite bookish BFF Tilly join us. Hey Tilly!
Hooray, so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Before we get started, though, and talk about all of our feelings, because, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I had a lot. Lot of feelings.
Yep.
First, we're going to just tell you quickly what this book was about. So, Nikki, do you want to read the synopsis?
1828. Robin Swift, orphaned by cholera in Canton, is brought to London by the mysterious Professor Lovell. There, he trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. The tower and its students are the world's center for translation and, more importantly, magic. Silverworking, the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation using enchanted silver bars, has made the British unparalleled in power, as the arcane craft serves the Empire's quest for colonization. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. But knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, Robin realizes serving Babel means betraying his motherland. As his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermes Society, an organization dedicated to stopping imperial expansion. When Britain pursues an unjust war with China over silver and opium, Robin must decide. Can powerful institutions be changed from within, or does revolution always require violence?
What a question.
Well, we know. Well, we don't really know.
We know.
At the end of that.
But you may not know.
Yeah.
The thing that I know is that I for sure pronounced it Babel the whole time, and I'm just going to have to, like, reframe my whole life here.
I say Babel too. That's fine.
Me
That's
too.
what I'll say throughout the whole thing, because that's how I've grown up saying it. I think you can say it either way, so it doesn't really matter.
And I think because they called them Babblers for
Yeah.
short,
Yeah.
or for, like, a little nickname, I was like, oh, well, that reinforces my pronunciation forever.
Yeah.
Right? I know. I listened to the audiobook while I read the book, and when he said Babel, I was like, well, I mean, that makes sense looking at how the word is written, but it doesn't make sense in my mind because I want to say Babel.
It's
And
like, that is
also-
not my fantasy.
Yeah. And, like, he's British too. So,
Yeah.
you know, we can just be, like, American about this one and not pronounce it the right way.
There's a U in there. Why is there a U? There's no U, everyone. Okay, thank you so much for reading that synopsis. I feel like I've been thrust back into the epic saga of this book, like, honestly.
I was only thrust out last night, so, like...
Girl, same.
I only finished it last night, so...
Oh, we're talking about books? Yeah, no problem. I'm just joking. I finished it on Friday, but it was great.
Wow, okay, so... I love that.
Sorry, if that was too much, we could cut it for sure.
No. Oh my god, no, we're not cutting that. With that, Tilly, I would love to hear your thoughts on this book.
Great. I would love to talk about it. So it took me a long time to read this book. It took me about 12 days, which is pretty long for me. It is a long book though. Like, I don't know, it's like 550 pages or something. So we previously talked about The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang on this podcast, and we all really enjoyed it. And I was really intrigued by this book and to see kind of like how it would be similar or different to The Poppy War. And at first I was like really like, okay, preparing myself because I recognized the pattern of the magic school. And I was like, some shit is about to go down.
Yes.
And it certainly did. I had a really great time reading. I was so tickled by the concept of the magic system and like the nuances in between languages being that can't be translated, and that is what is like magical. I thought that was so cool and original and so academic and so like smart. And yeah, it was like really a dense, complicated book, and I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I wasn't super sure like all the way through that it was going to be a 5-star book. You know, sometimes you read a book and the first page you're like, oh, I love this, 5 stars. For me, the journey like kind of like increased in velocity, I guess. But by the end of it, I just thought like, this is such an epic, like it's such a saga, and the research that went into it, and like all of the complex kind of like social interactions with everybody, it felt like it just couldn't be anything other than a 5-star read for me.
Nice.
So that's my feeling about it, and I cried a lot at the end.
Oh God, I know.
Yeah, it's like the last 50 pages really like, whew.
I know. I don't want to say too much about the end just yet because we just started. We have room to grow, you know, before we get there. But I will say I finished the book Home Alone, and that was the worst decision because I just wanted a hug from someone, and Linus didn't understand what was going on. Linus is my dog. He didn't understand, and I was like,
he gives pretty good hugs though.
He does, but I was like, I need a hug.
I get it. A hug with hands.
Yes.
I don't know. Sorry.
It's like bare minimum. Can you please? Well, no. But anyways,
No.
I don't know. Nikki.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I have lots of thoughts. I think the book was a 5-star for me. I really liked a lot of things at the beginning, like literally the first like 3 pages. It was giving me The Last Emperor vibes. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie or read the book.
No. Oh,
it's like
maybe.
True story about the last emperor of China, and basically how he eventually comes back to China as like a gardener because like the whole like regime has been like torn down or whatever. Anyway, it was giving me those vibes. Canton boy taken from his home and taught to like acclimate or whatever. But the reason I say I think I gave it 5 stars is because there were so many places in this book where my mind was going, what if it did this instead? Or what if it did this instead? So there are a lot of things where I'm like, I want more information because I was like, I feel like there's so much more to explore. So, but yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I started off reading it really fast, and then after they left the school, it kind of slowed down a little bit for me. I wasn't enjoying the vibe as much, but I like by the end of it, it kind of came like full circle, and I was on board again. Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
What about you, Kelly?
So I also gave it a 5 out of 5, but similarly to both of you, actually, I felt like as I was reading it, I was processing being like, is this a 5? I don't know. We'll see. Because there were little moments where I was like, interesting. Or like, what does this have to do with the other things? Or like, where are we going? Like, I think it was really interesting for me to read at this point in time right now because like, I'm so tired right now as we're recording this. I think we all are. But like,
explain some of the jokes.
Yes. But like normally when I'm tired, I can't read a big book like this, but I needed to get through it for the podcast, and I'm so glad I did. It wasn't like it was hard for me to get through it, but like I don't gravitate towards a lot of character driven stories, and this one started off really character driven, and then it kind of became more plot driven towards the end. And I really, really liked it. As soon as I heard about it, I was like, I need to read this book. I freaking love learning about etymology. I love language. I love all the nuance and like, what does this word mean versus this word? Where does that word come from? I love that stuff. And having read The Poppy War, I was like, okay, well, it's going to be fantastic because she is just so skilled at her craft. Yeah. And by the end of it, I felt like I was in some kind of like Les Mis universe.
Oh, yeah.
Where I felt so strongly for so many characters, even though I wanted to know more info, like you were saying, Nikki. Like, I wanted to know more about things. And some things I was like, well, I don't really know much about this, but like, what? Like, what does this mean? And then I got to the end and I was just so like overcome with emotion and like just so in the world that I was like, how could this not be a 5? Like, I was taken away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know? So I really liked it.
Yeah, I agree. I really felt kind of like flabbergasted by my emotional reaction at the end, because I wasn't sure if I was like feeling that attached to the characters. I was feeling really attached to like the concepts and like the all of the like themes that they were exploring and all of the like really intense kind of the discourse about colonization and translation and like revolution and characters like standing up for their countries that they maybe don't live in anymore. And it was all so like fierce and intense. And then by the end, I was just like, oh my God, I have come to fall in love with these characters. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
I do kind of feel like it could have been not 550 pages.
Yeah.
Same.
Like, even though I agree I wanted more detail of some things, but I was thinking back, I'm like, but how much has really happened? And I think a lot of it was like setting the atmosphere.
Yes.
Like, and setting the relationship between the central 4 friends. Or 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4. Yeah. 4 friends. Like, had a second of like, were there 5 of them?
Right.
I don't know. And so I think a lot of it was like almost like scene painting or like kind of window dressing of the world, but it still felt like a little long for what it ended up being in the end. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was very long for a book that skipped whole years, really. Like,
yes.
Because it would be like, yeah, we're in like Trinity term of first year, and now we're in Hillary term of like our second year, and I'm like, okay, so like almost a whole year has passed. And you're just like, it like really did like hopscotch through everything. And I understand in a way like getting to that kind of like 4th year pinnacle and that being like the jumping off point. They're finally like getting their hands on like silver to use on their own and all that stuff. But I don't know. I liked the character development portion of the book a lot more than I liked the plot-driven portion of the book. So I would have been totally happy if she just blabbed on about the whole 4 years they were at Babel, honestly.
Blab.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, in some ways it could have been a series.
Yes.
For that, because I kind of agree. I like books set in school.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to see more about their schooling.
Yes.
But in another sense, I think it would have lost a lot of the momentum, like thematically, if it had been broken up into multiple books. So I kind of understand, but yeah, it did feel like a little bit I don't know, something about it. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
I also like wish that we would have gotten an interlude from Griffin with some explanation for us, because there was, in my opinion, not enough information given about the Hermes Society. Like, I understand it needs to be like a mystery to Robin, but I think we deserve to know a little bit more, because I left the book feeling like I feel very strongly about this, but I don't really know what I feel really strongly about, because it was like very abstract, like vague concepts of like, yes, we're like smelting down these bars to send to 3rd world countries. Great. And what else? Like, there has to be something else going on to make this like a national ring of like underground, like silver stealing smugglers or whatever. Like, what else is going on?
Yeah. It's like
the
a little pun there. Yeah.
Silver stealing smugglers.
Say that 5 times fast.
Oh my God. I couldn't. Especially this tired.
Yeah. One thing.
No, I know what you mean.
Oh, sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Kelly. No, I was just, that was it. I know what Nikki means, and that's great that we could communicate together. Great.
Cool.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say one thing that kind of like didn't bother me, but I did find myself going back and forth between like, how do I feel about this? Were the footnotes. What did you two think about the footnotes?
I loved them. I love a footnote.
Okay.
I really like them, but my copy that I was reading was on my Kindle because I've been going like back and forth to the lake a lot, and the Kindle, while it had the stars, did not actually have the footnotes in it. So I listened to a lot of it. Yeah. I listened to a lot of it, and then the footnotes I was really interested in, I just went and like read from the book.
Wow.
I did find I had the hardcover copy, and the stars were so small that I was reading quickly, and I often like skipped over them, and then I got to the bottom of the page, and I was like, wait, what is this footnote? What does it actually like apply to? And then because it was so small, it looked very similar to the quotation marks.
Yeah.
I often couldn't find it, but I think that's my own, I'm not used to footnotes, I guess.
I was going to say, while I think that the footnotes are like fun, they're not like really super important and like detrimental not to read to the story. So I was like, once I read a few of them, I was like, okay, it doesn't like really like I'm not going to remember this like random fact about this like old dude who went to Oxford or whatever. Like, so like, okay, cool. That's fine.
Some of them were like little stories too, like little extra pieces of fiction, which was cool.
Yeah. But I was like, my thing with it was like I enjoyed reading them, and because I had the audiobook with the hard copy of the book, like the narrator would switch for the footnotes, so I could tell right away, oh, it's a footnote or whatever. Yeah. But like I had trouble understanding like, who is this footnote person? Is it R.F. Kuang? Is it someone who's in that world? Was it Yusef who's like writing their story? Like, who is the narrator in the footnotes?
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Because I was like, who is this? Why are they here? What is the purpose? And not like, why is it here? Like, I just literally didn't understand, like, is that R.F. Kuang? Like, I don't know.
I just assumed it was the author because she's an academic, and it's a very academic essay, like, piece of writing thing to do, and so I assumed like she's kind of a nerd, and I thought maybe that's what like she wanted to add extra information, but that's a really cool idea of it being Yusuf. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, because like I just needed to know, is this still part of the story, or is this like an outside voice
context,
just kind of playing along, you know? I don't know.
I don't know.
But I liked them. I especially liked all the like, especially because I was listening, the pronunciations of like Cantonese words or Mandarin words that I was like, I don't know how to say that by looking at the character. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, the audiobook was friggin' amazing. Like,
it was.
It was so good. The female narrator that did the footnotes was great, and she also read for like Letty's interlude, I think, or maybe not.
I don't remember if that happened. Yeah.
But like she read, like she would just like do like random shit in it, and I think she also pronounced some of the like Mandarin words. And the male one was great. Like, like so amazing.
Doing voices, doing all those different languages. Did you catch this? Certain times in the audiobook, it felt like there was another voice coming in just to do like that one like different language word, and then it went back.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
he would be like, Robin held the bar in his hand, blah blah blah, Zuni, and then it would go back to like, and then he blah blah blah, like dirt or whatever the word was. Like, so it was
that's like an editing issue. Weird. Yeah.
Like, I understand if he, like, or if he went and did it after, like, because if he said it in the flow of, like, an English sentence, like, it wouldn't have the right, like, tones in it. So I get, like, if they had to place it in after, but it was, like, a really abrupt and kind of, like, every time choppy. It happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was like, is that my phone just like malfunctioning? No, it's just the editing.
I also heard him cough at one point. He like cleared his throat and they didn't edit it out. It was like a
Yes.
like that.
Oh my gosh. Nikki, did that rub you the wrong way?
Right?
I feel like you're always editing out our weird sounds.
I coughed earlier and I was like, oh no. I made sure not to talk at all so you can just cut that out. I'm so sorry.
I do. I go through with like the fine tooth comb and I'm like, I'm breathing here. There's a chair squeak. There's whatever. And I'm like,
and we love
we
you.
mustn't know that we're humans.
No, never. You just let them know. Oh no. We're going to just cut it out.
They'll know.
We don't actually have legs at all. We're just heads sitting on a desk.
Yeah.
Whoa. News to me. Oh my gosh. Speaking of R.F. Kuang, this is going back a little bit,
That's
but
okay.
I didn't listen to the audiobook, so I can't contribute to that wonderful
That's okay.
conversation. Did you guys read the author's note? I was cackling. So for the listeners who haven't read the book, R.F. Kuang wrote this kick-ass author's note because she went to Oxford. I believe maybe she's studying there now. Was it for her master's or for her PhD? I don't remember.
Sure.
And she was basically explaining that, like, the trouble is writing a book set in Oxford is that there are lots of people who want to tell you that that's not what their experience was, or, like, that's not how they remember it, or they're going to dispute the, like, history or whatever. So she kind of wrote some things about, like, I have made this part up, and I have done this, and I have chosen to, like, rearrange history a little bit here, blah, 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 which was, like, a very thorough thing to do. And then at the end of the author's note, she was basically like, I don't have the book right here, but she was basically like, and if you have any other problems with my narrative, feel free to remind yourself that this is a work of fiction.
Yes.
Right? I know.
I fell in love with that book immediately. It was like the first page, and I was like, oh, yes girl, get them.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of J.R.R. Tolkien being like, you know, if you don't like that it's long, well, I probably don't like your work either, so don't read it.
Don't read it. Like, yeah. Incredible.
Not to compare her to an old, now dead white man, because that's not it, but like just the sass in that author's note.
Yeah, the give no shit attitude.
Yes. I loved it.
I love it too. And I also love because she is such a like petite, feminine looking, sweet looking lady. Mm-hmm. And then she writes with such like incisive violence. And like, I'm just like, I'm obsessed with her.
Yes.
Maybe that's why she can be so sweet in real life, because she lets it all out on the page.
Oh. Well, I have no idea how she is in real life. I just can only speak from her pretty author's photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, her Instagram is pretty sweet looking.
I was going to say all of her nice food pictures and travel pictures from her Instagram. Ooh, I'm like, what you eating? I want to know. Because it looks good every time you post a picture. But anyways, I'm so curious. I want to know, random question, did either of you have a favorite character in the core group, and who? Who was your favorite? Or was it someone not in the core group?
I don't think I did have a favorite in the core group because they all kind of piss me off in different ways, which
yeah.
But like I feel like that's just because they were written well. Like they all had like a different thing that they were like doing. Yeah, like there was nothing like superior about any of them to be like they're my favorite because they had this like quality. They were all just like students who were really tired.
Yeah.
And handled it in different ways. But I really, really loved Professor Chakravarti.
Yeah.
And like him showing Robin the resonance and him taking him on the house call and him being like, oh, they always do this when there's not white people that come, and like him like fixing the bar and stuff and letting Robin kind of like do some of that stuff. And yeah, so I think he was like my favorite in terms of like people who did things that touched me.
I liked him too. Nice. It was like
Yeah.
finally someone that you could feel safe around. You know what I mean? I feel like there were
someone nice.
so many people in this where I was like, I don't know if I can trust you and like from now until the next page. Like I just don't know.
I really liked, well, first of all, Rami in the core group really reminded me of my partner. Like being just like very kind of like passionate and smart and like having a lot of like debates with people. And so I think I was like drawn to him as a character. But I was also really liked Victoire. I thought she was so quiet, and so I was always interested to see like where is she gonna like break free, you know, like how is she going to react to things. And so I was really like moved by her last like couple of chapters where she makes like such a big decision, and her reasoning for it was like that was in her all along, and we just didn't get to see it because she was always like overshadowed by everyone else who was just louder. And that was like really well done, I thought, and I really liked her character.
That's awesome.
I think for me, I think it's like a tie between Antony or was it Professor Kraft, the Irish lady,
the girl.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm thinking of the
like
student.
super mean to them in class, and then stood with them.
Sorry, no, that's not who I'm thinking of. She was fine, but no. Who was the Gaelic student? She was a little older.
Kathy O'Neill.
Yes, I loved Kathy and I loved Antony. And when they died, I was so upset. And I don't even know why I thought that anyone would be safe in this book.
I know. I tried not to get too attached.
Right?
So they're all gonna go.
She does this to me. I say every time. I've only read 2 of her books, but I feel like I know her writing so well just because her style is so unique. And I'm just like, why did I think that anyone would be safe or anyone would be like smooth sailing, happy, especially with what the book is about? Like, why was I so like, you know, people are going to be okay? Like, no. But
I don't know, optimism.
Right? Why, Kelly? But Antony just felt really like stable and secure.
Yeah, he was cool.
Yes. And like when we thought he died the first time, I was like, I didn't get enough time with him. I wanted to know more. Like, why?
Oh, I knew right away. I'm like, that guy is in the Hermes Society.
I didn't know. I was like, no. And so then when he saw him, I was like, oh my God, thank God. Like, we're gonna have more time with him. But yeah. And then frickin' Letty had to go and ruin so many things.
I was waiting for that moment to happen. I never trusted her.
That's what kind of makes me like Letty the most.
What? Like, okay, quickly explain that, please.
Not like, but she was like, she ended up being the most interesting because everybody else was like, this is me. And it was. Like, that was them. And Letty had like a very complex situation going on, like, where she's like this white girl with a bunch of people who are not white, but she's also a woman, which is also not a good thing to be in that time. And her father is, and like her upbringing and stuff. And I don't know if I necessarily thought that she was going to betray them, but when she did, I was like, this makes so much sense. Like,
it made sense.
Like,
it was crazy, but
yeah. And like her kind of, her outbursts during the book and her temper tantrums that she would have and stuff. I was like, there's more that, again, we're not getting to know. And that's why I feel like with all of the kind of set dressing of the book, as Tilly put it, it makes me sad that maybe R.F. Kuang could have swapped that out for some more context with things, because I would have liked it.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have made the twist less like impactful, though. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. It just
Like
depends on
if
how you do it.
True.
Yeah.
True.
She's like the Javert of this story. Going with my Les Mis.
Yeah.
Comparing her to another dead old white man.
I know, but it's because it's the only epic saga
It's the epics
of this scale with like the revolutionary kind of like civilians against whatever that I know well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally.
And I'm just like, I think Letty is very interesting. she makes me so angry, but I also understand her, and I don't want to like be like, well, this is why, or you know what I mean? Like, she makes me so mad.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. You know what I mean? But yeah, she's so frustrating. She's also like freaking like, remember in The Sound of Music, Rolf?
Yeah.
He had to ruin everything too. He had a choice to make, and he made the wrong choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, somebody had to be the one to, like, pull it all out, right?
Yeah.
And, like, obviously, I'm not being, like, couth. Like, obviously
Yeah.
it had to be the white person. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they're the only person that is not benefiting from the Hermes Society.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
she
And they have
has...
to make it about themselves.
Yeah.
She's already a woman. Her dad fucking hates her. Like, she doesn't have any other family. And if she doesn't have Britain, what does she have? Nothing.
Yeah.
She doesn't have
Yeah.
Babel. She doesn't have Britain. She doesn't have anything. So, like, I didn't see it, but I saw it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I also thought it was really interesting when she kept trying to like explain away Professor Lovell's murder for Robin, to be like, it's okay, he was abusive, and he was like, I'm not okay with it, and like, I didn't do it because he was abusive, and like all these things. But she was trying to like relate to him and be like, my dad's also abusive. But as soon as he talked about like the bigger picture of like, he's an awful man doing all these things, she was like, whoa.
Committing war crimes.
Yeah. Like, she was like, wait, like, didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She only ever had her own like small bubble,
Yeah.
and that was all she could ever like think about.
Yeah.
That murder scene with Professor Lovell, like, I gasped out loud. I did not see that coming. Oh boy, that was crazy to me. That was when it really started to pick up, because honestly, when they went on their like voyage, I was like, I kind of lost a little bit of interest, because I was like, oh, this is gonna be like diplomatic talking back and forth. That's just like not the space that I was like in that moment.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'm gonna keep reading it anyway, and I kept reading it, and I was like, oh my god. Whoa.
Yeah. I knew as soon as he gave him that bar, he's like, yeah, you can keep it. I was like, he's gonna blow somebody up. Like, it only makes...
Oh, that didn't even clock for me.
Yeah, he was like, oh, like this, yeah, this is the bar that killed, what was her name, Evie?
I think so.
Yeah.
Evie Brooks.
And yeah. And he goes, you can keep it. I was like, that's a weird thing to gift your undercover son.
Yeah.
Like, well, that'll probably never come up again. Moving on.
Yep. Not like he carries around in his pocket all the time. What a freak. Who would do that? Like,
Well, it's also like such a video game thing to do.
Right?
Like, you pick something up, you have to use it at some point.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be part of the story.
I don't know, if I had a bar that could kill people, I probably wouldn't be like, oh, I'll put this in my pocket every morning. You know, just
Right?
slip it in there. Like,
Just keep it here in case, right next to my Advil, my chapstick. Like, you never know, you might need it.
It's like a university essential.
On your back to school
Really?
shopping list, silver bar that explodes at command, you know?
yeah.
Cantonese version is the only available version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or one of the only ones you could use it. What a sign of a good book, though, that we're all like taking all these different things from it, and like we all, like, I had seen some things coming, and like Nikki had seen some things coming. Like, we all kind of had different experiences with it, even though we read the same book.
Yes.
Can I talk about what my theory was at the beginning of the book?
Yes.
Please.
So not the very beginning, but and this is something I thought about throughout the whole book, of like, I kind of wish it would have went this way. So once Robin gets to Oxford, and he's running home after he goes to get the book from the library for Rami, and he sees Griffin and the other people, and he says, it looks like me. And I was like, it's him. It's future him come back with the silver to like steal silver from the past to bring to the
Whoa.
future, or his present or whatever. And that's where I was going with it, because I was like, these bars are magic. So, like, what can't they do? I didn't think it was like they only did practical things, like kill people, save people, and clean doilies. Like, I didn't think it was like that yet.
Your main three. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But I was like, oh, I really hope that that's Robin. And he's going to, like, recruit his past self for the betterment of the future. But that
would you say
didn't happen.
It would be a journey to the past?
Oh yeah, it would.
Journey
Oh my God.
to
the
Mandatory musical interlude.
I have to, otherwise I'll cry.
I know. That would have been cool. I definitely was like, oh, this must be the other one that, like, I think one of the professor's, like, friends had said at one point, oh, to Robin, like, oh, he looks even more like you than the other one. And I was like,
Mrs.
the
Piper.
other one.
Mrs. Piper, I really liked her.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I was so worried about her at the end, you know?
I think she made it out fine. I think she went
Yes.
to go like live with her brother or whatever she wanted to do.
But that's the thing, like, Robin was like, what about her? Like, it's not her fault and she doesn't have anything, and like, what's gonna happen? Like, there was his conscience there for a little bit, and then, like, before he got carried away, you know?
Yeah, and he went, like, megalomaniac on everybody, and everyone was like, okay, do you want to, like, think for a second? He's like, no.
Yeah.
Of course not.
I know. It's like
Yeah.
he finally found his, like, spine, and then
Yeah.
he couldn't, he didn't, like, feel like he had anything else to live for.
Yeah.
So he, like,
Yeah.
went all in. It was bananas.
And like being that repressed on pretty much every level and just living in denial because you feel like you're stuck in between these two different cultures, these two different ideas, you know? It's like,
with no, like, love in your life.
yeah, so upsetting and just so poignant too, you know? Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, RF Kuang is just on another level, honestly. Like,
Yeah, she's so smart, it freaks me out.
yeah. It was so good. It was so, like, there were times where I was like, I don't know if I can read another chapter right now, but I also really want to, you know? Like, where I was like, I need a sec. Like, this, I don't know how long it took me to read this either, but I mean, I think it took me a long time to read this, like you were saying at the very beginning, Tilly, but I don't remember how long it took me. But I think this is a book that you need to take your time. You don't want to rush through it. Otherwise, I don't think you're going to enjoy it. Like,
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day, and he was like, yeah, I started it, but then I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. It was kind of like slow. And I was like, I totally get it. That's usually me. But like, you need to take your time with this one because it's really good. I was like, I think you should just try again one more time if you want, and just take your time when you don't have a lot of things going on, and just read it however long, fast you want, and just let it sink in. And he was like, okay, I'll think about it. I'm like, great. Maybe
don't
you'll never
feel
read it, but
I don't feel like it was slow at all. It literally starts off and it's like whole
me
family
neither.
dead.
yeah.
One kid left. White man comes in right after his mom dies because you can't get there too early to save them all,
Yeah.
and like scoops him away. I'm like, that is so interesting.
Right?
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, I don't know. I was like hooked. I was like, okay, where are we going?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like stylistically, like, her dialogue never feels old-fashioned. Like, it always feels modern.
Yeah.
And I think that is, like, such a subtle thing, but it really helps propel things forward. I feel like when
Yeah.
the characters are talking to each other, it's not like, we're not Jane Austen here. Like, it's very, like, I think they even said, like, okay at one point.
Yeah.
Which I think helps make it feel speedier when it's going
Yeah.
along.
Yeah.
I don't know. She's so good at writing.
I feel like she would either be an amazing playwright or not for me. I don't know. I think she could do it because her characters are so rich and so real and so nuanced and complex, no matter who they are. I don't think I can pinpoint one person where I was like, dud, don't care about you. Even if it's someone I just see for a second, I'm like, there's something here, you know, like there's something to look at. There's something about you that I don't like or I like or whatever. Like, there's something. It's not just like throw away, you know,
Yeah.
like,
I know
Yeah.
that, like, obviously rating books is, like, a subjective thing, but I feel like this book is objectively a 5-star book. Like, it might
Yeah.
not be a 5-star read, but it is a 5-star book.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
every aspect of this has been so carefully planned and paired with her writing. There is nothing wrong with this. Like, there's only interpretation on stuff, but like I don't know what people could critique in terms of like the planning and writing of this.
Right?
I agree. And reading some of the Goodreads reviews, I think the only things people have to say are like, I wanted it to go a different way. My expectation was different.
Yeah.
Or like, my experience reading this, I didn't like this personally. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Which, that's a lot of Goodreads reviews. So, like, you know. But
Yeah.
I agree with you, Nikki. I think it's like, it wouldn't be surprising if at all if I found out that this book took her like 10 years to write.
Yeah.
Although it didn't.
Yeah.
And she's working on her PhD at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you a superhero?
She totally is. Yeah. And I think in her acknowledgments, because I was going to say before you brought that up, Tilly, pretty sure she said, in the year I spent in this world. I'm like, you wrote this in a year?
What can't she do?
Oh my
What can't she do?
I think, but also, I hope she's napping or something, because I'm like, holy God.
I like to think she orders a lot of Skip the Dishes because
I want that for
you
her.
can't do a
Yeah.
PhD, write a full book, and you also cook 3 meals a day. Like, that's too
Yeah.
much of anybody to ask.
Honestly, this book could be her thesis.
Yeah.
If we're being real.
Yeah.
Like, I think what is her PhD is in like classical Chinese studies or, I'm not entirely sure actually. But I remember it being related to the contents of this book.
Yeah.
So I'll just put that in for her. Like, I'll submit it to her professors and she can defend it and we'll call it a day.
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh my God. I hate that whole defending. I mean, I've never done it,
Is
but
it
I
just for
think,
masters? Now that I don't know anymore.
I don't know, but I'm just like, I did all this work and I have to defend it? Like, what?
Right?
What? Just, I don't think she needs to defend this. I'm like, you did it. You did it. You don't need to do any more work. Like,
Could you imagine being her teacher and being like, why are you here? Like, obviously, like, she doesn't know everything there is to know about her, like, study, like, the thing that she's studying or whatever. But, like, I just couldn't imagine teaching somebody who's, like, really, like, a famous author and being like, I'd be like, why are you here? Why don't you go write some more really good books? Like, what
Or,
are you
like,
doing?
you know, there's always some BS thing that happens when you're being marked that's like, I really wish you would have used this word instead of this one.
Oh my
or
God.
like, the tense you used is not my favorite. Why were your margins this big or whatever? I'd be like, R.F. Kuang
I am
perfect.
a best-selling author. Don't like
Right?
pull that
I just
shit
found
with
out
me.
she's 27, so I've got to go jump off a cliff now.
She's 27?
She's 27.
Oh man.
What am I doing with my life? Why am I 4 years older than that and I've done nothing?
It took
Right.
me like all weekend just to put the dishes away. Like, I mean, I know it's not
Okay,
nice to
okay.
compare, but that's where I'm at right
Well,
now.
Self-deprecating comparison is fine, right? I don't know. I don't
I
make
think
the
it
rules.
is.
Whoops.
I just fact-checked myself, and she's pursuing a PhD in East Asian languages and literatures at Yale.
Oh, cool.
So I think she did her master's at Oxford.
Right.
Okay.
So this is pretty related, I would
Yes.
say.
Oh,
we can
yeah.
submit this on her behalf.
Yes.
Yeah.
Support. Yeah. If I had her stamp, I'd say success or whatever the opposite of denied is. Approved. Approved.
Success.
Kelly's brain is shutting down now.
I'm breaking down. I'm breaking down. It's my second musical
God,
theater.
talk about tears.
Okay, but
Jesus,
also
that
one
musical.
quick little side note because I need to say it. When Nikki was talking about like, I feel like she orders a lot of skip the dishes if she's doing all these things, I immediately thought of Allie Hazelwood because I'm like, well, all of her characters are like PhD students or like grad students doing all these things and they eat like trash. Okay.
Yeah.
but they
Skittles.
they also aren't best-selling or internationally best-selling authors. Like, you know what I mean? They're not
And
even.
She also she came out with Yellowface just this year too. And like she wrote like 2 books that got published this year. It's like on another level.
I'm excited to read that one. It's on my shelf
I have
here.
a copy. I haven't read it yet.
Was Babel published this year or last year?
Maybe it was last year.
Last year.
I feel like we've been planning this episode for a very long time. Like we've talked about doing this episode like last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because
But still,
I don't know what it
books a year apart.
Yeah. I know.
I don't know what it is about her stuff. I mean, I know what it was the first time because I'd never read anything by her. And I saw the Poppy War and I was like, I feel like I'm really going to like this, but I'm scared to open it because it's so big and it's something I don't usually read, like historical fiction, fantasy. I don't know if I'll like it. I read it. I love it. I'm obsessed. But then I look at the next book. It's huge. And I'm like, I know I'm going to love it, but I can't start it because it's so big.
It was so good.
It was so good.
No, the second one was also so good.
Oh, really? Oh, I can't wait.
I haven't read the third one yet because I needed like an emotional break.
Yeah, that's how I felt after this book. I was like, I'm so tired. I can't read right now, but I really just want to read a cozy, light, no thinking read because I was just gutted at the end. Since we keep kind of tiptoeing around the end, let's just get there now. The ending.
Oh my God.
When everything slowly started to fall apart / I don't know, build anew? Like, question mark? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know what like was the point of it all. Like did it work? Like did it go anywhere? We don't know.
Yeah. Is that the whole point? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't put the book down during those last like 50 pages or so. Like as soon as the barricades went up and they had like taken the tower and they were, you know, surviving and on this kind of like in this siege situation, it was thrilling, but also so stressful because I was like, this is not going to end well for anyone. Like no one is going to get out of this alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as time went on, that was the case.
I do appreciate though that she like was very conscious in making the decision that they're like, we all have to die. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of authors don't go there, and I don't know if it is it closes off maybe some doors to like potential expansion of a world or like whatever the case may be. I really appreciated that they were like, this is the plan. There's like no other plans. This is the plan and we're all gonna die. So like let's go forth. And they're like, who does it make the most sense to not die? And they're like, oh, these like first years, they don't know anything and they're not even like useful basically to us at this point. So like get out, save yourselves. And then they're like, cool. To the corners. Like that's it.
Yeah.
I found that was like very poignant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also appreciate when an author like, even though it destroys me, I appreciate when an author like kills their darlings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it feels like they get up to that point and then it's like, and then everyone lived happily ever after, which is so unrealistic.
Yes.
And it feels like
Cheap.
untrue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
cheapens
exactly.
it to me. I feel like it almost negates all the hard work that went up to that point. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's like if you didn't want to go there, then you shouldn't have put the story there.
Don't start something you can't finish.
Yes, because as the creator of this story, you know, like if you're going to take it to a place, you got to see it through. You can't tiptoe around it. You can't like suddenly decide like, well, I don't want people to be upset, blah, blah, blah. Like it just cheapens it. And I thought it was really well done, like shocker, you know, especially like with the Poppy War. We already saw some of these horrible things that were like, this can't happen, can it? No, it's going to happen because that's what makes sense. That's how the story is unfolding. It has to happen. I really did appreciate, or not appreciate, that's not the word. I liked the conversations going in of like Victoire being like, I should stay, but I really don't want to. And Robin being like, that's okay. You don't have to. And even though he was kind of getting carried away and all these things, he was like, I'm not going to force something on you, you know, like this has to be your decision. And it was, those sections were so hard for me to get through. They were so well done. It was just so upsetting, but it was, so good.
Yeah.
Just like devastating.
What you said earlier about like, you know, she's not one to tiptoe around anything. I think that was like so clear through the whole book. Like, she was not being coy about like colonizers taking over other countries' languages and turning a fucking profit and letting people die. Like, that was this book in a way I felt like was like a vehicle for this like rage, you know. And I feel like at the end it only made sense to like not tiptoe around what the only possible ending could be. Like, the necessity of violence is like the alternate title for this book. And the ideas of like translation always being an act of betrayal and violence being the only thing that like gets people's attention when they don't want to pay attention. Oh my god, I know, there was so much happening.
Seriously, Robin only translated I think like maybe 2 times in the book for a fellow countryman or someone who spoke Cantonese or Mandarin, you know what I mean? Like,
and both times he had to betray them.
And the first time at the very beginning, he was trying to spare his feelings and like help him hopefully move on and like get on another boat and work without like upsetting him too much or like causing a scene for him. And it was just so heartbreaking reading that and him having to parse out like, what do I do here? And no one's going to help me like figure out what to do in this situation. Oh my god. And talking to, was it the Commissioner Lin? That was a really interesting part. I really liked that part.
Yeah. They set all that opium on fire and I was like, fuck
yeah. I was like, Poppy War, we're here.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's around the same time too.
The metaverse.
Yeah, seriously. But now we have to see if Yellowface is in it, which it's not.
Whoa.
But like, also the part where he kind of like stumbled upon a opium den where his house used to be.
Oof.
That was,
talk about a metaphor.
Oh my god. Reading that section, I felt sick to my stomach. Like, just all the descriptions of what he was feeling once he had inhaled and everything. Like, oh my god. But I think there's just so many like vignettes, if you will, in this book that stay with you, or at least for me, they do. Like all those ones I just mentioned. One of my favorites was when Griffin was talking to Robin about revolution and like the fact that all the translators, all the foreigners, as he said, have the power, but they're so scared and they're so oppressed and like brainwashed to think that they don't have the power, they don't have anything of need to like the empire, so that they have, and so because of that they're like, well, I guess I'm just stuck, you know. And that whole passage, I was just like, this is so like, it boggles my mind but doesn't boggle my mind when you look at the Goodreads reviews and you see the 1 stars where there's like very obviously white people reading the book being like, this was racist against white people, and I'm like, oh my god, okay, you did not read the same book I read. Like,
also, like, that doesn't exist.
Like, also first of all, that's like not a thing.
It does exist. Yeah, it's such a classic like tactic, I feel, that R.F. Kuang like displays in the book, of the empire like belittling the people who they're the most afraid of. And like it's a way of controlling them, right? It's like just how like we see it in our history all the time, of like not giving women the right to vote because like they're afraid of like them disrupting the system, and like, you know, enslaving people from different countries because they're like afraid of change. It's like it's such a vicious cycle, and it's like, I think that's what made this book so impactful, is like it's fantasy, quote unquote, but it's not really. The only fantastical element is the silver bars, but everything else is just history,
which we don't know. We haven't made silver bars. I don't know.
You're right.
I don't know how they work.
I got so confused about the silver bars. I'm like, okay, so I understand that the word is on one side and then the word is on the other side, but what side? Is it like a rectangular bar? Is it like a little bar? Is it like a round bar? I was like really agonizing over this.
I picture like a big ass brick. I'm like, that's a lot of silver.
That's kind of what I landed on.
I don't know.
I also really had a hard time wrapping my head around how exactly they worked, like the idea of the match pair. Like she did such a good job explaining it, but it was just such a like wild thing to think about. Oh man, so cool.
I think that goes back to Nikki being like, I want more with the magic system. Because it is so interesting.
It was interesting, but it also wasn't the point, I think. Maybe that's like what she landed on, but I agree. I wanted more.
I feel like if it wasn't the point, it was really distracting. Like,
because it was also quite a big part of the plot.
Like, I need stuff. I need explanations. I need pictures of
diagrams,
what the resonance bars look like that are shouting out to other bars in Britain. I'd like, because I was picturing like a wind chime kind of thing, like
cool,
but attached at the top and the bottom with the bars in the middle like vibrating.
That's kind of what I was picturing too.
That's cool.
Or like lined up kind of like an organ kind of thing. Like, but I don't know because there was no. She didn't say.
I don't know.
Well, we'll never know.
Can you imagine?
Speaking of things.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, speaking of things we'll never know. Did either of you catch? Like, was there something romantic between Rami and Robin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it was so fleeting, and I don't think they ever talked about it. But I think they were in love.
Yes. And it was never explored.
I'm kind of glad it wasn't explored because...
I know. And I don't know if it was even reciprocated. I think it was maybe just Robin. Feelings.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we really didn't see anything from Rami. Like, and really, it could have been also totally platonic from both of them. But the way that people read things... You don't really know. Like, I felt like there was vibes, but I was also trying to like ignore the vibes because I was like, not the point. Like, let's.
Right. I just was hoping for like a moment of happiness for Robin, and it felt like, I don't know, it felt like their friendship was so deep and so special. And I don't think they needed to actually be in love. Like, I think friendship is a form of love.
Yes,
for sure.
But I was also just like curious. I was just like, nosy.
No, I felt that too. And like, I didn't want this to turn into a romance and like a tragic love story or anything, even though it kind of was in a way, you know, a tragic love story to Oxford, to academia for him, and, you know, with him and Rami, but not, because nothing happened. But like, I just wanted him to feel that little bit of specialness, you know, because
same.
I feel like when he really lit up was when he started school, because he loved reading and he loved all these things. But then it's like, how can you fully light up or be completely happy when you know you're doing wrong and when you feel torn and you feel guilty and you don't know what you're doing, you know, like,
and no one makes you feel welcome.
So I don't know, but I definitely picked up on those vibes as well.
I kind of want them to like, I feel like it's more pure and it means more to me if it's just a friendship, like that level of genuine friendship, because then if it's like he loves him or has like romantic feelings for him, it kind of like puts like an ulterior motive on like certain like decisions that he makes about Rami. Like, you start feeling like, did he do that just because he likes him? Or like, I like to think more that they're just like the best of friends, like soulmates in that way.
Yes.
And
Right.
everything was just like a not more genuine, but I can't think of another way to put it. So yeah, I don't know.
Like altruistic, I guess, or like
Yeah.
I know what you mean though. Yeah. Ugh, there's just like
I
so
just
many
don't-
feelings.
I know. I feel like that whole group, their feelings towards each other as friends were enough. Like we didn't need to
They had
have
such a beautiful friendship.
yeah.
Until they didn't.
Until they didn't. Yeah, it was really intriguing to see that it was Victoire and Robin at the end, because they hadn't really been thrown together a lot
Yeah.
in the story. Like, it was always like Rami and Robin and Victoire and Letty. And it was so sad when Robin kind of had that realization that, like, at least he had Rami, and like they had come from a similar place.
Yeah.
And Victoire had really no one, because Letty could relate to her in some ways, but like just really couldn't understand the depth of her, like, her feelings about being in a different country, about having a different skin color, and having
Yeah.
like different language. And like, I think Victoire, like, she had been like briefly enslaved as a child too. We kind of found out in like her interlude.
Yeah.
And there were just so many experiences that she, like, Letty just couldn't, kind of willfully didn't understand.
Yeah. The very end, you had a physical copy, Tilly, so I'm sure you read it. The Dramatis Personae.
I didn't even see that.
You didn't have it?
Maybe I didn't. I don't think I had it.
Oh,
I'm gonna go look at my
no.
book in a minute.
Okay, so I have the Indigo exclusive, which,
Oh, that's probably why.
oh, shoot. It's like the same, except that one thing, I guess. So, but in it, she says at the very top, it's written by the same narrator as the footnote. So whoever that is, I'm assuming it's R.F. Kuang. And, well, I mean, it obviously is her, but you know what I mean. But she wrote like little blurbs, and at the very top she said, do not read this until the very end. And I was like, okay, because she has like symbols there of like who passed away, who didn't make it, whatever. And there were certain characters where it led me to believe that she's thinking of writing more.
Oh, really?
Yes. So she kind of alludes to that with Griffin and Victoire. And so for
Because we never. Oh no, we did see Griffin die, but then they
Yes.
didn't see his body or something.
Yeah.
There was some weird thing that happened.
So with Griffin, he is dead. She put a symbol like he's dead. But I think she was thinking, at least in that footnote kind of thing, if you will, that she could write a story of him before all of this.
Beforehand.
So like his childhood, his upbringing with Professor Lovell, the Hermes Society. So maybe we'll get more intel on that. I don't know if it's even a thing, because it was quite the Easter egg at the end. I was like, is this a thing? I don't know. And she, with Victoire, I personally, and again, I don't even know if any of this will happen, but if there's more, I don't want her to go to the States. I don't want it to be like, I'm escaping here to the States and like whatever. Like, I just feel like that's been done so many times, and it's like, I
It's
want
gonna
to
be
see
like
her.
Outlander,
Yeah.
and then everything's gonna go to shit.
Yeah.
Just like Outlander.
I was thinking at the end of Yentl, when she goes to the States to like get an education and like be an independent woman, and I'm like, okay, great, but also it's not perfect fairy tale land in the States. Like, I'd rather learn about Victoire going home and
to
discovering
Haiti, yeah.
yes, and discovering
cool.
herself there and being with the Hermes Society or like whatever. No hate to the States. I don't want to read that. I want her to go home and rediscover herself, and yeah, that's what I would like if that happens.
So what made you think that she was going to write more? Like, how was it kind of implied?
So, okay, it's super short, so I'll just read it to you. She wrote for Victoire, kind Victoire, brave Victoire, will fill the next 560 pages of history and spend a great deal of time among empty chairs at empty tables. There's the Les Mis reference.
Oh my God.
Yep. And she says
That gave me goosebumps.
560 pages of history, which is just longer than this book. So I'm curious.
What in the Taylor Swift?
Oh my God. I can't bring Taylor Swift into this episode.
It's just like her fans are like, but if you subtract 1989 from this, it equals 13, which is Taylor's favorite number. It's just like,
Oh my
they're
God,
crazy.
the level that they go to. I'm like, that's what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
sorry.
bring Taylor up again. I know.
No,
it
it's
offends
okay.
everyone.
No, it's okay. It's just, I feel like everyone on Instagram, because of her tour, all I hear
Yeah.
is Taylor Swift. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm happy for you, but I don't understand any of this and I don't relate. So like, let's move on. Like, it's
Yeah,
so
come on.
much.
The algorithm's gotta spice it up for you.
Why do they think I want to see it? I'm the last person who wants to see it. Like, move along. But okay, sorry. The last thing, Griffin, it says here that he has died. So there you go. It says, lived a crueler and sadder life than he ever let on to his brother. Deserves an entire book of his own, and maybe he'll get one. So
Nice. Maybe.
I'd be down.
I feel like it's gonna
He
be
was
like 10 years
very
away.
mysterious.
Yeah. Which I
I don't know. It could be
Yeah.
next year.
oh God. I mean, she's
rate she writes?
Right. She probably wrote at the same time. You know what I mean? She's probably like, I have all my notes here. Boom. Here's this masterpiece. Oh wait, I have another one. I'm in my notes. You know, like what?
It's unreal.
Unreal.
What an amazing person.
Yeah. Well, with that, I'm going to try to drink something cozy, you know, maybe blow my nose a few times, try to collect myself, because I just have, even though we've talked about this book for over an hour, I still have so many feelings, and I'm sure you both do as well. I think this book is going to stick with us for a while. But thank you so much for joining us for today's episode, Tilly. I had so much fun discussing these just beautiful moments in this book with you.
So many feelings.
Yeah. And thank you for listening. If you want to keep up to date on all of our bookish antics online, you can follow us on Instagram at BYO Book Podcast or TikTok at Bring Your Own Book Podcast. And with that, we will see you next time, where we're going to be reading one of our favorite teenage reads, Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. So quite the tone shift. But until then, keep on drinking in great stories. Cheers!
Next time on BYOB, the Bring Your Own Book podcast. I'd never given much thought to how I would die, though I'd had reason enough in the last few months. But even if I had, I would not have imagined it like this.